Welcome back to Tell Me More About It. I'm your host, Larry. Berding is not here, but today I have a special guest, Michael Berding. I've known Mr. Berding since I was a child. I played in his basketball league, as well as he was my baseball coach once upon a time. He is a good guy and has always been involved in the community. I want you to get to know him so you can vote for Mike Berding for Fairfield Township Trustee. It's Fairfield Township or was it Butler?
Fairfield Township.
Okay, that was right. Okay. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Glad to have you here.
It's good to be here. You did an excellent job down here in this studio. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. It took a long time, but thank you.
Because I know who your dad is, so I'm very impressed that you had the ability to do it.
No, I didn't do it.
Oh, he did a lot of the work?
He did a lot of the work.
Okay.
He did a lot of the work.
Well, I'm impressed for you both then.
So you ready to get started?
I am.
All right. When is the election?
So the election is November the 2nd, so that's a week from today, actually.
Okay.
And actually, earlier voting is open now, so people can go to the polls and vote. Starting probably tomorrow, they can go online and see when the hours are open at the Board of Elections building on Princeton Road. And then, of course, the polls close, I think, at 7:30 or 7 p.m. on the 2nd.
Okay. I'm gonna make sure to get there in time.
That's absolutely.
What office are you running for?
So I'm running for Fairfield Township Trustee. I've been a Fairfield City School Board member for the past 8 years, and my term is expiring at the end of this year, 2021. And I would have to run for re-election if I wanted to continue. And I decided to come off of the school board to run for trustee.
Can you share your bio?
Sure. So I'm a 28-year resident of Fairfield Township.
Okay.
And I am one of 10 kids in my family. So actually I have 5 biological, there's 5 of us Berdings, and then there's 5 Christos. And so my dad had custody of 5 kids when he got divorced, and then he married someone with 5 children. And so there was 10 of us together. And I am the middle son, I'm the middle boy, Berding, and I'm also the middle child, so I'm the number 3 of 5. And then when my dad got married to my stepmom, I became number 5 of 10. So I was still in the middle. No matter where you go about it, I was still going to be in the middle. So
I don't know what's up with these baby boomers. Have like a lot of brothers and sisters.
yeah,
Like my mom, she has I think 8 or 9 brothers and sisters. My dad has 7 or 8 as well.
okay. Yeah, so, but outside a big family growing up, and so and my father taught me a lot about work habits and about being a public servant. And he was strong in the community. He was the president of the athletic association for our elementary school.
Wow.
And my grandfather was a scoutmaster, and my grandmother worked a lot of volunteer times at the University of Cincinnati, which is where you go. She actually worked in the lunchroom and served Oscar Robertson lunch all the time.
Wow.
So yeah, so they lived in that area of town. My father grew up in Clifton, went to St. George Elementary School and then Roger Bacon High School.
Okay.
And so, and then he moved to the west side of Cincinnati and raised his family. And then I moved into Fairfield City in 1990 to put my children through Fairfield City schools. And added child number 2 in 1990 and child number 3 in 97. And then when I got divorced and remarried someone with 1 child, and so I got a stepson, Eric Van Zandt. So I have 4 children total. They're all my children. I don't consider any of them stepchildren. And that's just kind of the way that Susan and I, we treat them as our own.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I've been volunteering in the community for a couple decades. It started before actually the basketball league. I was a volunteer in the community doing other things. And then I've run the youth basketball league in Fairfield Township. I think we started in 2005. That's when we started as volunteers. My wife Susan and I became the president in 2006, the very next year. And then was the president for 8 or 9 years. And then I've been the vice president since 2013. So I still am in charge of assigning the referees, which I know your dad is against. Your dad once told me when I was refereeing one of your games, I gave him a technical foul, and he says, "You know, Mike, I get two. I'm going to use one of them.
You're right. You know my dad.
Yeah, so your dad's wonderful. I love him to death. I feel like he's a brother. I know your mother very well too, and so you have good family.
Thank you.
I've known you and Jamal for a long time as well.
Right.
And so when you have families like you, the Browns, in the league, it doesn't feel like it's work. It's volunteer friendships.
I didn't even know it was volunteers.
Yeah, it's 100% volunteer. I've been volunteering for that for a long time. I was on the zoning appeals board for about 7 years and the zoning commission for about 7 years. So about 14 years as a volunteer during that. And I am a volunteer on our church board. So our church is the Presbyterian Church of downtown Hamilton.
Okay.
And I am one of the elders in the church and one of the ruling elders. So I'm on session. So we make a lot of the decisions as far as budget, employees, the direction of the church, expansion,
Right.
membership, things like that. So I've been doing that for the past 5 years. I have one more year left on that term, and then I'll be term limited out as a volunteer. And that's also a volunteer, but I'll be term limited out and be stepping off of that board.
That's a lot, Mike. Mr. Berding.
That's okay. You can call me Mike. It's okay.
It's Mr. Berding.
Okay.
You earn the respect. That I didn't know you had that big of a resume with your volunteer work.
Yeah, and there's other things as well. I mean, the father-daughter dance that Fairfield Schools puts on. I'm on that. I'm one of the chairs of that committee. It's a volunteer. I was a Fairfield Rotarian, which is an organization in the city of Fairfield and Fairfield Township. And one of the things that we try to do is we do a thing called the Dictionary Project, where every third grader in the Fairfield City School District gets a dictionary. You probably still have yours, maybe not. You may have got rid of it.
I may have.
But we give free dictionaries to every third grader in Fairfield schools.
Okay.
And even if you go to Sacred Heart or one of the other Christian schools in the city, you still get one. And they do a big Christmas project where we adopt families and we make sure that they have food and presents for their children on Christmas when necessary. So that's another volunteer opportunity that I've had. Coaching baseball and refereeing basketball and all those things adds up. So
now I want to pick your mind, but I'm gonna stick to these questions.
Sure. You can ask me anything.
No,
you don't need to stick to any kind of script.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Were you finished with your bio?
Sure.
What is the roles and responsibilities of a trustee?
Sure. So the state of Ohio has about 1,300 townships in it. 1,300. And each township has 3 trustees.
Okay.
Butler County has 29 townships. And so obviously you have the cities like Fairfield, Hamilton, Monroe, Middletown.
Right.
But then there's also townships that are unincorporated parts of the county.
Okay.
And so each township has 3 trustees, and they are elected positions. And so currently, the trustees, what they do is they set the budgets. They hire an administrator to do the day-to-day operations. And then they hire a fire chief, police chief, public works, people in charge of clearing the streets and fixing the parks and mowing all the grass. So they're in charge of those personnel. And they also approve expenditures. They approve any kind of tax to go on the ballot. So the taxpayers are the ones that the voters are the ones that approve any kind of tax. But the trustees have to approve it to go to the ballot.
So it's the voters, then the trustees, then the ballot?
So the trustees would say, okay, let's say, for instance, that we need more money for the fire department and the police department. The trustees would figure out about how much they would need per year, figure out what that percentage would be on someone's property tax, and then say, okay, well, we vote to put it onto the ballot. Then it goes to the election, and then the voters can decide whether they want to approve that tax or not. And if they don't approve the tax, then it's up to the trustees to figure out, well, we've only got this much money to spend. How do we spend it?
Right.
But if the voters say, yeah, we want to give you more money for more firefighters or more police department personnel, that's when the trustees make that decision as well.
Okay.
But the trustees cannot just impose a tax on somebody. All they can do is put it out to the voters for them to approve said tax.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, I'm learning here, guys. You guys are learning as well.
It's a little different than it is school board. So, being on the school board, I got elected in 2013 to the Fairfield School Board,
Okay.
and then reelected in 2017. In the meantime, Butler Tech
The
covers.
4-year term?
It's a 4-year term.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and there's no term limit. So if I wanted to stay on the Fairfield School Board, I just have to run for election again. But I decided not to. I decided to run for trustee instead. But you can't hold both positions. So in 2014, the Fairfield School Board appointed me to represent them on the Butler Tech Board of Education. So Butler Tech covers all 11 public schools, all 10 public schools in Butler County, as well as Northwest Local School District, which is like Coleraine High School and Northwest High School.
That's a big role.
Yeah, and Hamilton. So all those 11, in Hamilton County. So all those school districts each send one representative to sit on the Butler Tech board to represent them on the Butler Tech board. And so there's 11 board members on the Butler Tech Board of Education, and I was appointed by Fairfield to a 3-year term in 2014 and then reelected in 2017 and 2020 to represent, 2014. I was appointed in 2015
Okay.
to 2018, and then reappointed in 2018 and reappointed in 2021 to serve 3-year terms. And the Butler Tech Board of Education then appoints who out of those 11 they want to appoint to be president. And they appointed me 6 years ago to become the president of the board, and I've been serving in that role since then. But each year they reappoint someone to be the president, and so for the last 6 times they've appointed me.
That's a big role.
That's a big role.
That's a big role.
So, the Butler Tech has about a $40 million budget, and Fairfield Schools has about a $112 million budget. And so those are big budgets, and Fairfield Township has about a $16 million budget. So it's actually less than the 2 school districts.
Say that last part again.
Sure. So Fairfield City Schools has about a $112 million a year budget to handle. That's income and expenses. You have to make sure that you're not spending more than you're bringing in, right?
Right.
And so Butler Tech has about a $40 million budget of taxes coming in and expenditures. And then Fairfield Township, their annual budget is around $16 million. So it's less than the other 2.
Okay.
So it's actually less than I'm used to having to budget, but it's more hands-on because the school boards, you're more or less approving the recommendations of the superintendent and the treasurer. So they're making recommendations to the board and you're approving them or not. Whereas a township trustee has to actually come up with those resolutions and ideas. So it's a little bit of a different role.
Okay. Why are you the candidate? Before I even ask that question, you said I could talk off script for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where does somebody, because I've been trying to get involved in the community, where would somebody go to get involved in the community in general?
Well, there's lots of different opportunities. So if you want to volunteer with the schools, the best place to start would be your local elementary school. Okay. And so for you, that would be Fairfield North Elementary. If you want to contact them and say, hey, what kind of help would you need? I know they have like carnivals and fundraisers and things like that. They always need bodies to volunteer with that. I'm also part of the Fairfield Township Fire Corps as a volunteer, and what we do.
What are you not a part of?
And so what we do is we help the fire department with non-emergency type things. So, for instance, we provide safety training for kids on like what to do in case of a fire in a house, and we teach them. We have like this trailer that we take to the different parts of the community, and we actually, it's called a smokehouse because we can put water vapor smoke into the house, and it sort of fills up the rooms, and then we teach the kids, get down and crawl on the grounds because the smoke stays up high.
Right.
So we teach youth how to do that. We teach them about have a safe space to go.
That's cool.
So like if, for instance, there's a fire here, Larry, we would teach you, even though you're not a youth anymore, but you and your dad and mom, and I think Jamal's not here currently, right? He's away at school.
Yes.
But let's say he was here. you guys should have a meeting place outside of the house that once everybody gets there, everyone's out of the house, so you're not kind of scrambling around. So we teach that to like 5, 6, 7-year-olds, and so they implement that type of plan. And so, and we also install smoke alarms, smoke detectors in people's houses that need them, that can't afford smoke alarms. And
That's great.
Yeah, so we do those types of things.
That's great. Okay.
So getting back to your question, Fairfield Fire Corps is always looking for people that want to volunteer, and so you could contact the administrator at the Fairfield Township office, and the phone number is on the website or Facebook, and contact the administrator and say, hey, how do I get involved with the Fire Corps or the Citizens Police Academy? You can go do that and learn how to do neighborhood watches and vacation home checks and things like that. And so you can contact those organizations.
Does the Fairfield community and the Fairfield Township community, are those two different
Governing bodies?
Yes.
They are. So
Okay.
there's, in the city of Fairfield, in the city limits, they have a city council, and they're elected by ward. So the different parts of the community vote for their city council person. And I believe that there's also 2 at large, so it covers the whole entire district, city. And then they have a directly elected mayor. And so actually this year there is a mayor's race in the city of Fairfield. And that's the only race in the city of Fairfield, election race. And the city council is unopposed, because I think there's 3 or 4 people running for 3 or 4 spots. So there's no campaign that's being run for that. But it is separate government entities.
Okay. Why are you the candidate of choice?
Well, that's a great question.
Besides the long resume that you haven't been a great person.
Well, I think because of my resume, I think I've shown that I have the ability to balance large budgets.
You are, I imagine, a busy man.
I am. I'm a business owner, so I'm used to having to keep a profit loss margin. I have to make sure that, I'm selling things for more than I pay for them.
Right.
And, I have to make sure that I know how to do my taxes, right? And also other things associated with the business. I've expanded my business into 7 states. So I'm not just in Ohio. I also have business in Indiana and Kentucky and Tennessee, West Virginia, parts of Illinois, and parts of Pennsylvania. So,
Wow.
I'm good with people. I'm a people pleaser. I work well with boards, so you can see that, all the different boards I'm on, they nominate me and appoint me as president. So obviously I'm good with, figuring out what's the best for the community. And I'm able to work with people no matter what their viewpoint is. Because, we don't always agree on everything on these boards, but we have to have a united message.
Right.
I've developed a great relationship with a lot of our elected officials. So all the county commissioners here in Butler County, T.C. Rogers, Don Dixon, Sidney Carpenter, Sheriff Jones, got a good relationship with him. Our treasurer, Nancy Nix, and our recorder, Danny Crank. I have relationships with all those people. Our Ohio state rep is Jennifer Gross for now, but they've done redistricting, and so our next representative will probably be Sarah Carruthers. But I've established relationships with both of them working on school funding. Our state senator is George Lang. I've developed a really good relationship with him on school funding, and so I can work with them to make it easier for business to come into Fairfield Township, because I've already established those relationships. And of course, if we need any kind of state funding for any kind of projects here in Fairfield Township, I've already established those relationships to go ask for that funding. And then we've also been working with our federal officials, our Congressman Warren Davidson. I've had many, many conversations with him, and Rob Portman. I've sat in with our federal senator, Ohio Senator Rob Portman, working on funding for career technical education for adults as well, working on Perkins funding and working on grants that adults can go in and get help to get new training, because they may have lost their job due to COVID, or their industry has gone by the wayside, so they have to get retrained in something. And so we've been working with them to help adults get the funding they need to go back to school and learn things.
That's great. That's great. That was great. Should you be elected? What are your goals?
So first, I think all three of the current trustees have done a great job setting our township up for the next 30 to 50 years. We have a new fire station, a public works building. All of our salt trucks used to sit outside and rust away, but now they're in a nice new building so that they can be protected for many years to come. And then we have an updated police station. The police station that we had before was built like a house, so it wasn't really built to be really secure. The evidence room that someone could go in at night and bring a power saw and cut through the ceiling and get to the evidence room. And it served the purpose because it was built when Fairfield Township only had limited number of officers. And when it was opened some 20 some odd years ago, it was beautiful. It was great. But we've kind of outgrown that. And so the current trustees have renovated it, made it more secure, more professional. And our police chief has done a great job of getting more professional officers to patrol our streets. And so one of the goals I would have would be to make sure that the police chief has the number of officers that he feels we need to make sure we're well protected and served in Fairfield Township. Our fire department has mainly and mostly part-time fire department workers, firefighters. And I would like to see a few more full-time firefighters added. So change, not more personnel, but move from part-time to full-time personnel, because that would keep them in Fairfield Township as opposed to bringing them in, training them, and then they leave to go full-time someplace else. And also when we have part-time firefighters, they may have a full-time job someplace else, and so they can't work their part-time shift here. And now instead of 6 firefighters and EMTs at a fire station, we may only have 4 or 5. So we're understaffed a little bit there, and we want to make sure that the township is covered every shift at these firehouses. They've done a great job with the roads department. Our roads are being repaired. They put a 10-year plan in. I want to make sure that's being continued so we don't kind of let that slag off a little bit, because our roads are in pretty good shape, but we need to make sure we stay focused on that. I would like to try to attract some new business. I've been talking to some people, some friends of mine that are in the restaurant business, and I'm trying to attract them to come to Fairfield Township, maybe bring a steakhouse or a nice Italian restaurant. But the problem we're finding out right now is that my friends are telling me, Mike, I can't keep my current restaurant fully staffed, and I have to have limited hours because I can't get workers. So how can I open up a new restaurant in Fairfield Township? So hopefully once COVID is over and the workforce is getting back there, maybe we can start having that discussion. But there's hope. There is some land in Fairfield Township to put some restaurants, and I'm hoping to take advantage of that. Also think that our zoning department is it's kind of a mixed bag of things right now, and I think we need to make sure it's more representative.
When you say zoning, what does that mean?
Sure. So zoning can mean a couple different things. Zoning is like, for instance, this neighborhood is zoned residential. Okay. So someone could not put a business in this area. And so there's a development that is going in at the end of Bypass 4 by the Bob Evans and by the Speedway. And so that was zoned business, but the landowner had an idea of bringing in some patio homes for some families of like some people that are like 55 and older that want to kind of be in a retirement sort of setting. And so those patio homes are like one level homes. I don't believe there's going to be basements, and they're going to be duplexes. So a home connected to another home. And so when you have homes connected to other homes, typically there's not children in those homes because you'll be able to hear them through the walls, right? So they're typically childless homes, and so that's going to be going in up there. So that had to be changed from business to residential. Okay. The other part of zoning is, for instance, if you have a big RV, right, and you want to park it in your driveway,
right,
it may not really fit in your driveway, and it may be a nuisance to the neighbor that can't see around it to pull out of his driveway. And so there's certain zoning laws in place so the neighborhood is protected against things like that happening. There's zoning laws that says that you can only have like 5 dogs in a certain neighborhood, or that you can't have like I said, a business. You can't operate a business out of your home. There's certain zoning laws that say if you have a certain size of piece of land, you can't have a huge garage or a big barn on it, right? So there's certain things associated with the lot size. And I would like that to be relooked at because there's a little bit of confusion with it right now. So for instance, there's a zoning law in place that says you can't park your commercial vehicle in your driveway. It has to be in your garage.
Okay.
Well, we just had a global pandemic. Many people had to work from home. And so you could be like an electrician working for an electrical company. And they say, but you can't come in the office because of COVID. We need you to work out of your home. Well, now he's got to bring his work van and park in his driveway. But our current zoning law says you can't have it there.
Right.
So what the trustees have done is they said, let's put a moratorium on enforcing that code right now. Let's look at what our township is, what our township needs. Let's listen to the residents. So Shannon Harkemeyer, one of the current trustees, who's up for re-election, she decided, let's have some focus groups. Let the residents come in, tell us, trustees, what they want to see. And so there's been 3 focus groups so far. There's another one coming up, I think, November 19th. I'm not certain exactly on that date, but people can go out to the website, the township website, and find out what that date is. For residents to come in and say, hey, I'd like to not see this, or I don't want to see a big RV parked in my neighborhood, or I don't want to see a big tractor trailer parked. And so we're getting that feedback right now. And so hopefully, probably sometime in 2022, those things will be addressed.
Last question. Tell the viewers something about you that they wouldn't know.
Something about me that the viewer wouldn't know.
I didn't know he had 10 siblings, guys. That's a lot.
So technically, it's actually 13 because my mom married someone that had 3, but they didn't live in the house with us. So, but technically, I'm really one of 13. Something that people don't know about me, I actually climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. In 2002, my brother Jeff and I, along with a couple of his college buddies, traveled to Tanzania. We landed in...
Where's that at?
It's in Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, so we traveled to Kenya, landed in Nairobi, Kenya, and then took like a 6-hour bus ride on some pretty dangerous dirt roads to get to Tanzania.
Yeah.
And then we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. It was like a 5-day trek up the side of Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, Kilimanjaro is 17,000 some odd feet, whereas like Mount Everest is 27,000 feet. So there's still 8,000 or 9,000 feet difference in the heights of these, 8,000 feet difference. And Kilimanjaro is more of a trek. It's like a hike.
Okay.
So there are some spots where you're like using both your hands and your feet to traverse around rocks and climb and things like that. But if you can imagine Mount Everest, they're using pickaxes, right? And they're in sub-0 degree weather and snowstorms. It's really not like that climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. The top of the mountain is actually a glacier. And so it is sub-zero up there, or at least below freezing, right? But it's nowhere near like climbing Mount Everest. So in 2002, my brother went over there with some friends, and we did this 5-day trek up Kilimanjaro. And I actually got sick on the side of the mountain. So you have to filter your water over there, and our bodies here in the United States are not used to the same elements in the water, right, that they drink. And so we had to filter it, and I don't think my filter functioned correctly. And so I actually started running a fever, was losing consciousness while climbing. And interesting story is I remember during the summit, not remembering a lot of the climb to the summit. We were attempting that at midnight. And I remember waking up and seeing how beautifully bright the moon was. Like, wow, I can't believe how beautiful this moon is. And then realizing oh my gosh, why am I laying on my back some 100 feet off of the trail? Because I had passed out and slid down the mountain about 100 feet.
Wow.
And so I was very sick. There's no rescue up there. They don't bring helicopters and things like that like they do in the movies, right? And so you had to make your own way back down. And so I owe my brother Jeff a lot of credit that he stopped his ascent to make sure I got back down to base camp. And we got down to base camp, and I still wasn't quite all there. And then so I had to immediately continue to go back down the mountain because they thought it was altitude sickness. So I thought, well, if we just get them further down, we'll be fine. And that wasn't the case, because even when I got further down, I wasn't really feeling that well. But I had like 104 point something degree temperature.
Wow.
And was very sick with vomiting and things like that. And so I could have been close to death for all I know.
It sounds like
Yeah,
it.
but I would go back and do it again.
Do it again?
I would. It was a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie with the other guys. There were 6 of us on the trek, or 5 of us, I'm sorry, 5 of us on the trek, and only one of us made it. And so that's about the success rate for Kilimanjaro, is about 20%. And but I was very upset because I had trained very hard for it. I ran, I worked out, I lost a bunch of weight. I was like 195 pounds. And really ready to do this. And because I feel like my filter of my my water filter didn't work right.
Didn't work.
It nearly killed me, and but didn't allow me to finish it. But then after the trek, and once I started feeling better, we actually went on a safari, and we drove around in Tanzania and saw all the wild animals.
That's great.
The elephants and the gray rhinos and the lions and tiger, all that stuff.
Is it hot there, or is it like about the same it is here?
So it's near the equator, so
Okay.
it is hot during the day, but at night on the mountain it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very hot there, and very dry. And we went to a Maasai village, one of the indigenous people, and it was very interesting to see a lot of their culture.
Right.
It was when digital cameras were just coming out.
Okay.
And so we had to ask them if it was okay to take pictures of them, and they were okay with it. And then we would show them on the back of the camera their image, and they had never seen themselves.
Wow.
No
mirrors or anything there.
Not a lot of mirrors and things like that in these huts. I mean, they're in huts that are built out of manure and mud and straw, and so that was very enlightening, seeing the indigenous people over in Kenya. But to this day, I don't really enjoy going to like the Cincinnati Zoo because I've seen the animals in their element.
Exactly.
Right? And so it's like I feel. Now I know that the animals that they have were born and bred in captivity, so they don't know any different, right?
I didn't know that, but okay.
Yeah, the zoo mainly they're bred and born in a zoo, and then maybe not the Cincinnati Zoo, but then brought from another zoo. They're not really caught in the wild and brought into the zoo. It's more of a breeding program.
Okay.
And so, and we get, the Cincinnati Zoo gets animals from all over the world, from China, Japan, Russia, Europe, Australia. And so, and you trade animals like you do, I guess, playing cards, right? Or baseball cards. And so different zoos are more, they breed the animals, certain animals better at certain zoos. And so then you can say, well, I've got this rare giraffe, and I'll give you a male giraffe if you give me a female gray rhino, right? So that's what they do.
Okay.
But since again I've seen those in the wild, it's just it's hard for me to see them in the zoo. I mean, we're driving down the road, and there's zebra like literally on the side of the road. Like we would drive by and see cows in a pasture. You see zebra in Africa. It was pretty cool.
That was a great experience.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I would do it again. So I guess that was one thing someone would not know about me.
I think that's a great one.
Yeah. So I love my community. Fairfield Township's home. We've raised all our kids here. We have 4 children and 2 grandchildren that are at North Elementary.
Okay.
Class of 32.
Your granddad?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, you did not know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so my oldest is Sarah.
Okay.
And she's 30. She's 36. Yeah, 36. And I know I don't look old enough to have a 36-year-old.
No, you look young, Mr. Berding.
So I started early. I was a teen father.
Okay.
And so Sarah is married, and she lives in the house that we used to live in. I don't know if you were ever at our house on Milliken Road.
But where did you live at now?
So on Milliken Road, right there by Liberty Fairfield Road, right down the street from North Elementary, we used to live right there on Milliken. We bought the house that's behind there. That sits on 7 acres.
You lost me.
So we're on 7 acres of land behind our house, original house.
Okay.
And there was already a house back there was built in 95. And we bought that house in 2018. And our daughter Sarah bought our house in front. And so now our grandchildren are right down the driveway from us.
That's great.
That is very cool. And so like every morning, since I'm self-employed, I can take time and walk down the driveway and help put them on the school bus every morning.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And when they get in trouble with mom and dad, they come back on the driveway and they knock on the door and they say, Papa, mom's being mean to me.
I bet you spoil them right.
Oh, we spoil them very bad. And it's great. And we just send them back home. Like, hey, you go back to mom and dad. So.
Oh, that's so wrong. My dad says don't do that to me when I have some, but
They will, but that's the grandparents' job.
okay.
Spoil the grandkids. Were you spoiled by your grandparents?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, right?
Yeah.
I was spoiled by my grandparents. And so that's the grandparents' job, to spoil. And then it's mom and dad's job to get you back down to earth.
Right.
Wow, and just right down the street.
Yeah.
Or right down the
Down the driveway. Yeah.
That's great.
It's awesome. And plus, it's great having them in our old house, a house that we did a lot of renovation work to, and knowing that all your sweat equity went into something that now your children and your grandchildren are being part of. So,
legacy right there.
legacy, absolutely. And the land that we have, at some point, we could have our other children build houses on it and live in it.
And you said it's right behind the north. Like, say that one more time, Mr. Berding.
Sure. So, I don't know if you remember where we used to live.
I don't think so.
Okay, so Milliken Road runs from Route 4 by the Speedway, right?
Right.
Runs all the way, and it actually runs into Warren County and changes names to Brewster. But anyway, it runs right along just north of Fairfield North Elementary.
Okay.
So North Elementary is almost on the corner of Morris and Milliken Roads, okay? So we live right where Fairfield Township ends at Milliken Road.
Oh.
So there's a road called Liberty Fairfield Road. So it separates Liberty Township, Fairfield Township.
Okay.
And so we're like 2 houses in from that corner was our old house that I bought in 2003. Lived there 15 years and then bought the house behind us that was sitting on 7 acres of land.
Now I
So
get it.
yeah,
now.
so we bought that in 2018, and then our daughter Sarah and her husband and 2 kids bought our house from us,
Got it.
and now live in front of us.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and they go to Fairfield North Elementary. My 2 grandchildren.
You didn't go to North, but your kids went to North, right?
My kids went to North. I did not go to North. I grew up on the west side of Cincinnati.
Right.
Yeah,
So yeah, might even continue.
yeah.
Well, I think this was a good podcast today. I got to learn about politics and more about Mr. Berding. So did you guys. So don't forget to vote. What day is it again?
So actually, early voting is open, so people can go tomorrow
Okay.
to the Board of Elections on Princeton Road, which is all the way at the end of Princeton Road, and they can vote early. But actually, Election Day is November 2nd, which is 1 week from today.
Okay.
So they can go and early vote, or they can wait for Election Day. They can go to the Board of Elections website to make sure that they are registered and to find out their polling location. Hopefully, everyone already knows their polling location, but they can go to make sure that it hasn't changed, and then vote on Election Day.
Okay.
If this is your first time watching our channel, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to it. Vern and I try to post every Friday. This is Tell Me More About It. You have anything else you want to add, Mr. Berding?
Residents can go to my website. It's www.berdingfortrustee.com. They can find out way more information than I can possibly give you in one sitting. It talks about my overall vision for Fairfield Township, a lot of the ideas I have for if I get elected, a lot of the things that I've accomplished as a school board member. And then it also talks about some of some of the resolutions that I hope to do as a trustee. And then you can also see a lot of my volunteer opportunities that I've done. So kind of get my whole bio out there. And then,
Check it out.
yeah, you can also see who's endorsing me to get elected. So I've talked about those relationships that I've built. So a lot of the leaders here in Butler County and in Southwest Ohio are endorsing me to get elected. So they can go there and they can see that and they can read all about who's saying what about Michael Berding.
Right.
I'd love to come back, talk about any subject you want, truly. If you
Really?
have any question about the
'Cause
township,
I didn't know you had so much knowledge on. I didn't know Mr. Berding. See, I just remember from basketball and baseball. I thought he was.
I didn't know.
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, we can talk about schools, we can talk about volunteering in the community, some of the subjects that we touched on. We could talk about township government, we could talk about families, anything you want to talk about, running a business, anything you want to talk about, Larry. I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Thank you.
But I would request that Vernon's here next time because I remember like we used to carpool, right? And Vernon was in the carpool.
Mr. Berding, do you remember the time I got sick?
Yes. And I also remember the time that
You were so nice to me that day. I appreciate it because I knew you was like, this man is throwing up in my car.
I also remember when Mr.
Turner.
When he got in a traffic wreck when you guys were driving with him on the way to school one day.
I wasn't there that day.
Oh, you weren't. Just Eric was and
Eric and Vernon.
Vernon were in there. Okay. Yeah. So I remember that happening. It was right in front of East Elementary, if I remember correctly. Wow. Yeah, but we used to carpool because there was no busing for sophomores. and
Exactly.
freshmen. Oh, sophomores, because freshmen had busing.
Right.
Do you know we have busing for sophomores now?
Is it really?
Yeah, we put that in about 5 or 6 years ago.
That's great.
Yeah, so we decided that when we opened up the new school building, a freshman school,
Okay.
we opened it up on the same plot of land that the high school is on, right? So
Right.
you know that, obviously.
No.
Okay.
Wait, where is the new freshman building?
So you know where the practice football field was behind the high school? Okay, you know the senior high school.
Right.
You know we're in Fairfield, right? You know we're in Butler County. No, just joking with you.
Right,
So,
right.
so Fairfield High School, behind it, they used to have a practice football field.
Right.
Okay, so in that practice football field, we built a freshman school, and that's where it's located. So between the high school and Jungle Gyms, that field is now the freshman school.
I knew that.
Yes.
I had a brain fart.
That's okay.
Okay.
So because we bus freshmen, and we were coming to the high school campus, we said, let's go ahead and offer it to sophomores,
Which makes sense.
which makes sense, right? And
Right.
so that also alleviated traffic on Gilmore Road, right there. Remember how bad traffic was?
It was bad.
It took forever to drop off and pick up.
Yes.
So by offering freshman busing or sophomore busing, that eliminates a lot of that traffic flow as well.
Okay.
But since so many juniors and seniors drive or have friends that drive, we didn't think we had to offer that to juniors because if you offer it to that grade level, you have to have a seat on that bus for a student, even if they're riding it or not riding it.
Okay. And
So we'd have empty buses if we offered it to juniors and
which
seniors.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to have you back with Vernon here.
definitely. I would love to come back, talk about anything. Talk about sports, talk about
Anything?
Anything you
The
want.
Bengals are good this year too.
the Bengals are good. Yeah, my brother's soccer team is not doing real well. I don't know if you knew that.
I knew the FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, so my brother is the founder. He founded that. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't know he founded it. I thought he was
Yeah.
the owner. I didn't know he founded it too.
Yeah, so he built that from nothing. And yeah, so that was a great story. Maybe that's a topic for someday. That's a
Yes.
great success story. While they're not really successful on the field right now, they're incredibly successful business-wise.
And they're only gonna get better.
Only going to get better.
It's gonna happen.
We talked about the Reds. That's fine.
I'm down.
Talk about township basketball. Talk about maybe you refereeing.
Hey, I'm free to do it.
Okay.
I'm free.
That's great. We have clinics all the time that we can get referees if Vernon wants to ref, and then I'll sit in the stands and yell at you guys.
Do you have to do a class for that?
Yeah, we have classes, but
Okay.
we provide the classes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
it's great.
So we got more
Bonus
more in
material.
tune. We got bonus material. We got plenty coming, guys.
Yes.
So I'm glad you came today.
I'm very impressed by what you've done here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're a fine young man and Vernon as well, and I'm very, very honored to know you and your family.
Same, Mr. Berding's It's a pleasure knowing you guys. Your wife is extremely sweet. Your sons, great kids. Is that great people, right? People.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're very blessed to have good kids and good grandkids and good friends. And so, you and your mom and dad and Jamal have been good friends to us, and we value your friendship and
We
we're
do too.
very, very impressed with your success.
The Berdings have done a lot for us.
You guys have been there for us, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, we love you guys.
Love you
Seriously.
too. So we're out, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
You can be anybody you wanna be.